Quick little video on measuring angles. In a previous one, we talked about uh, the different types of angles, right? You have a right angle in this case. Right angle is 90 degrees, and how they'll always put a box right here to let you know that that is 90 degrees. Anything less than 90 degrees is acute. Anything from 90, right, from 90 to 180 is obtuse, and 180 degrees is a straight angle. So we've talked about that. That's vocabulary you need to know. But how to measure an angle is a little different. So the first thing you need to know is this ray, right? Ray is an angle, right? An angle is two rays formed that intersect at B. So in this case, we're just going to take this side BC. This is called the initial side, and here's where some people get confused with how to use a protractor, because the protractor is the device we're going to use to measure these angles. So the initial side is, in this case, we're going to have it here. When you get to measuring angles in a triangle and other figures, it may not always be on the bottom. It's just you need to find your initial side. And this is the initial side of this one, which is going to make this what they call the terminal side. Terminal side. So we are going from this side to that side. This is where we're going to start. This is where we're going to end up to figure out what is the angle of this, the measurement of this angle. So in this case, this is 90. Well, if I move this down, right, anything less than 90, that would be an acute angle going from the initial to terminal, right, obtuse, right, anything from 90 to 180, and 180 would be your straight angle. Okay, so when we're talking about initial side and terminal side, understand what we're talking about there. Okay, so using a protractor. First thing, let's just take a look at this. So protractor is designed like this. There is a point in the middle here. Now sometimes, depending on what kind of protractor you have, there could be a hole right here where the vertex goes. Vertex, right, where these rays meet. This is the vertex. So whatever this middle point is, it could be a crosshair, it could be a hole in the protractor, whatever. That's where the vertex goes. Okay, and then you have to figure out which one of these is your initial side. So in this case, this protractor is already set up. This AB right here, where B is your vertex, extends right here to A. That is going to be your initial side. Your initial side has to be running through 0. Okay, so we're going to learn later on when we can manipulate this protractor. You could actually move it to where the initial side is going to run through here. But whatever happens, whatever you determine the initial side is, you need to find which number, which one runs through 0, because you have a bunch of numbers going here. And if you really look at this protractor, if we start from the left over here, the top numbers, they start 0, 10, 20, and they get bigger and go all the way to 180, which again is your straight angle. But if I go bottom numbers, now all of a sudden right to the left they get bigger. Okay, so there is a difference. And if you can go back and understand the difference between acute, right, obtuse, those kind of angles, that'll solve a lot of your problems. But in order to use this protractor, figure out the initial side. The initial side has to run through 0. So because this initial side, right, AB, is running through this 0, I'm using these bottom numbers. Okay, so for this is 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and now I go up to my marks here. So, and if you zoom in, right, this is 70, 80, 1, 81. It's like it's through that first mark past past here. So that would be 81 degrees. All right, we're good. So we'll do another one. All right, this one right here, again, same initial side, so we're reading bottom numbers. All right, this initial side crosses 0 here. So we're reading these bottom numbers. So now I know I'm obtuse. If this is my initial side and that's my terminal side, I know I'm obtuse. So to use these top numbers, that doesn't make sense because I know it's obtuse. I know it's more than 90. But I do need to keep in mind that because this initial side is 0, I'm reading these bottom ones. So that's 120, 130, so that's 120, and then I go count my marks. So that is about 127 after I count my marks past 120. So that's about 127. All right, we're good. This one. And again, on all these are going to look the same. We're going to do some later on that are going to look a little different, where all this, the initial side is going to be here. So we're going to read all the bottom numbers on this one. So 10, 20, 30, 40, one mark past 40. So that would be 41 degrees. All right, one more. This one, I know that's obtuse. Runs through 0 here. Initial side runs through 0 here. So that's 110. Not quite 110. So 100. And then I count, it looks like 106. Okay. So those are fairly simple. That already has you set where you should be. Problem comes with questions that say like this. All right, we'll do this one. It says, what's the measure of the red angle? I know that's obtuse. So it looks very similar to the ones we just did. This is my initial side, right? 0's there, so I'm reading bottom numbers. So bottom numbers, that runs through 110. All right, we're good. So this one, again, this is my initial side, runs through 0. I got bottom numbers, that would be 50. And I know it's 50 and it's not 130 because I know that's an acute angle. So that will help you a little bit with figuring out, do I read the bottom number or do I read the top number? Now this one's flipped. Now this initial side is over here. So now I'm running through 0 right here. Well, now I'm reading these top numbers because that's where 0 starts. So my initial side has changed and 0's here. So now I am reading these top numbers. So it's 110, 120, that looks like 125. Okay. I know it's not 55 because if I go from initial to terminal, I know that's obtuse. And that's not 55 and 65. That doesn't make sense either. So sometimes just kind of making sense of it helps you realize, how to read the protractor. Now the problem comes in something like this, because that looks 90, could be a little less, could be a little more. There's where you're tested. Do you actually know how to use the protractor? For this example, is like the previous one. So this is my initial side. I'm reading it crosses 0 there, so I'm reading these top numbers. So when I read these top numbers, that turns into, that's a little less than 90. So that'd be about 88, 87. This one's 87. That's the closest number. This initial side is like the ones we did to start with. So this initial side crosses 0 there, so I'm running through 80. Good, make 100 so far. Again, this initial side's on this other side. So now I'm reading my top numbers because this initial side runs through 0 there. So now that's about 90, not quite 95. All right. But the question is it right, acute, or obtuse? All right, well, that's going to be obtuse. It says, what's the measure of the red angle? So my initial side's here. I'm reading bottom ones. I know that's obtuse. I mean, that's almost 180 degrees. That's almost a flat line. All right, so I know it's not 15. So it comes down to 165, 175, 155. Well, if I read my bottom numbers, that's 140, 150, 165. 165. But it's still making hundreds. That is almost a straight line. So that is really close to 180. Not quite 180, because if it was 180, then straight angle would be your answer. But again, just by looking at it, we should know that's obtuse. But if we were actually getting the specific angle measurements, right, we would be using top numbers there, and it would be about 175. But that is obtuse. This one, initial side, top numbers, okay, runs through 0 there. So that's about 120, 132. 132. It says about 130. We're going to go with that one. All right, initial side over here. So you see it's kind of the same. The very first thing I got to do is find the initial side. This protractor is already set up. The one we're about to do, we're going to have to manipulate it to find the initial side. But this one, initial side 0 is here. So it'll be 50, 65. All right. This one, that's a real acute triangle or acute angle. All right, so 163, those two don't make sense. So is it 17 or 22? Well, if I'm using the top ones, that's 10, 20, and then 2 past that. So that would be there. And one more. Initial side here, running through 0, so that would be about 75. All right, and we made 100. Okay. All right, let's look at some more. Here's where we can actually manipulate this triangle. Now, this one's already set, so what it wants to know, if we could manipulate this and twist it and turn it, we could make either one the initial side. Okay, let's say they read it like this. They want to know what that angle is. Well, if I go from 20, let's read the top number here, 20 to 130. All right, that is 20, 130. That's 110 degrees. All right, now this is a different kind of protractor, but it's the same idea. Let's say this is 175 and this is 10. Well, if I went from 0 to 180, flat line, that's 180. So I'm basically 15 degrees less than that. I'm that 10 and that 5. So what I could do is I could rotate that. That would be 165. Same thing here. That's if I read these numbers, that's 125 to 145. So I'll subtract that. That's a 20-degree angle. Okay, now here's one where the initial side is here. So top numbers are going to tell me that that is 80 degrees. Okay. Now, something I do want to show you is, okay, let's say I manipulate a protractor. Okay, so what would I get if I manipulate a protractor? So I'll show you this one. Okay, and you're going to do this activity later in the year, so this will be a good heads up and how you do it. Let's say I have this triangle. Okay, and I'm using this protractor. I can maneuver it however I want to, manipulate it. Right, the red button is the red dot's going to turn it. So I need to find the measurement of all three of these angles in the triangle. So the blue would be your hole in your vertex, or the hole in your protractor, whatever. Either way, that goes on the vertex. So let's say I want to find this angle right here. And they don't have letters. We'll just call it the top angle. So that blue, right? And if you have a protractor that has a crosshair, that crosshair is going to go on that vertex. All right, and then I rotate this. So then I got to figure out which one is my initial side. Which one am I going to lay that protractor on? Well, if I decide that is going to be my initial side, right, that initial side runs through 0 there, I'm reading these bottom numbers. Okay, and that makes that about a 20, 60, 70, 80, 88 degrees. Okay, well, let's say I turn it this way. And I want to make that other side my initial side. That's fine. All right, so now this is my initial side where I lay, and now I'm crossing 0 here. Well, now I'm reading top numbers. Well, I'm still going to get 88. So it doesn't matter. Just a matter of which numbers you're reading. Am I reading the top numbers in this example, or am I reading the bottom ones? All depend on which one you make the initial side. So if that's 88, let's come in here and do this one. Well, if I want to make this side, the initial side, I need to straighten it up here. This side, the initial side, then after I lay the protractor on, across the 0 here, I'm reading these numbers. So that's about 40, 1, 2, 3, 44 degrees. If I do that. Again, if I twist it around and say this bottom side is my initial side, not going to get anything different. I'm just reading the top numbers instead. So I get 44 that way. So either way, you just got to figure out which one do I want my initial side, which one do I want my terminal side. That way I know which numbers I'm using. Am I using my bottom numbers, or am I using my top numbers? So that's a quick little video on how to measure angles. We'll do plenty of activities on that in class. I think that'll be very helpful to help you understand angles and how you measure them.